Wow, that was some intro. That was today, as you can see. As you can see, there's no Kevin Campbell today, and there's no Dan Potts. So that is why you got the most horrendous intro there. And Dave, unfortunately, is doing things as well. So it's just me today. But I'll tell you what I thought I'd do today. Get a special guest on, because someone that is in the know on a few things. So we're going to talk a little bit about the transfers. Of course, we're going to talk about what happened yesterday and what it means to Arsenal as far as the result is concerned, and what moving forward. And we're going to have a little chat about Mikel Arteta and Edu, and realistically where this has left us over this period. I don't know about you, Tom, but I was really looking forward to January. And on January the 1st, despite our defeat against Manchester City, I was looking forward to the next games. Now, I know that you was planning to go to Nottingham Forest, and I wasn't, if you remember rightly, and I was going to get you a ticket. And at the last minute, you said, it looks like the game might be in danger of being off. So you pulled out, and at the very last minute, I decided to go. So you turned out.
You know who won there?
Yeah. I think you got it right, and I got it wrong.
Yeah.
Do you think it's gone wrong from that moment on at the Arsenal? Is this just a blip? What's your feelings over this? And what's happened in January from your point of view? We'll talk about the Liverpool game in a moment, and what's happened over those two legs, and certainly yesterday. But what do you feel's gone wrong at Arsenal at the moment? Do you think it was that Nottingham Forest game, or what's your feelings on this?
The Forest game was strange. We played a very, very young, decimated side. Charlie Patino got his debut, of course. Tavares was hooked after 30 minutes. Cedric, as we know, just isn't very good for starters, playing at right back. And to be honest, I looked at that game and I just thought Forest just wanted that so much more than we did in the game. And I think that our midfield of Lokonga and Patino really weren't able to control things whatsoever. So I look at that game as a bit of a blip, to be honest. I don't look at that game and go, well, that defines Arsenal's season. And to be honest, we started off 2022 quite well. Like, I know we didn't win the game against City, but, we put on a very good account of ourselves. It was a very positive performance, and we were very unlucky not to come out of that game with anything. And then we've had this back-to-back League Cup fixture against Liverpool, in which, again, the first fixture, we go down to 10 men, all down to Granit Xhaka's kind of incompetence, as we've come to learn to expect these days. And then we set things up very well. Arteta dealt with the game pretty professionally, changed the structure, changed the system, and dealt with Liverpool very professionally. And we came away with a 0-0 draw, to the point where you think going into this game that we experienced last night, we got a bit of hope. We got a little bit of something about us, and we're going to go into this game pumped up. The Arent is going to be rocking. But as soon as they scored, it was like we died on the field. Like, I've never seen a team die on the field quite like we did yesterday, and it was awful. But I suppose, coming back to your original question about what do I think's happened to Arteta, I do think that this is a bit of a strange month with all the postponements and the COVIDs and the injuries and everything else. But they have been kind of their own enemies in a way by letting Ainsley Maitland-Niles go on loan, and they've left themselves short, and they've been unable to get anyone in early enough to make a difference. So, whilst there are certainly reasons as to why that we've finished the way that we have, some of those reasons are self-inflicted.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And how I look at it, and as simple as this, I think the game against Nottingham Forest, I'm gonna be honest. You hit the nail on the head there when you said that they wanted it more than us. I don't think we wanted to go through. I think we wanted the break. I don't think we was interested in the FA Cup this year. I really don't. And I'm not making excuses. I'm not making excuses. It just seemed like that. We just put out a team that didn't really matter, and I was disappointed with that. But I do think that that performance and that result has put pressure on Arteta and everything to go with it. The Maitland-Niles thing, I've got to say, that is just incompetence from this management team at this moment in time. I'm really, you go into it knowing that Partey's not there, knowing El Nenny's not there, and then, love and behold, Xhaka gets a sending off, and you could turn around and go, well, you didn't see that coming, but you just don't know with him, and that's the thing. Is the reliability of somebody like that is is unreal. And of course, I think if I remember, he didn't play in the game against Nottingham Forest because he had COVID anyway, didn't he? It was Lokonga, and so they knew that he had COVID. So I just think that sometimes I just think that, and if I ever had the chance to speak to Mikel Arteta, I would have to ask him and go, you do know the jury's out on you with the fans. There is don't give them the ammunition. Don't, why have you put yourself in this position to let this happen again? Like, do you know what I mean? Don't give doubters like myself the opportunity to doubt, and don't give the ones that have given you no chance whatsoever to give them ammo. And that's what I think he's done. I think he's given so much ammunition, And I will say this, Tom. Again, you get the result like yesterday, Arteta out, and can you blame these fans for that? But part of me says, well, it's a little bit harsh after what's going on, but you can kind of understand it to a certain degree.
I absolutely do. I mean, I've been very dismissive of, the Arteta Out call, as people know that watch my stuff or read my stuff. But today I sat down on shift and wrote about the Arteta Outs in a very different way. I kind of listed off the criticisms that Arteta's facing, the mistakes that he's making, kind of assessing all of them, bringing up the Ainsley Maitland-Niles situation, bringing up the in-game management problems that we've seen. I mean, yesterday's game, for example, he didn't change anything in the game.
No.
Like we brought on subs, but the overall structure of things didn't change. And Liverpool have really struggled this season against wing-backs, and I thought we saw Martinelli and Saka completely isolated in the wide areas. Liverpool just stacked 3 or 4 players up on each of them whenever they're in position. Why not go to a back 3 system with a couple of wing backs, support Martinelli, overlap Saka, and double up on their fullbacks? Because they just had no support. And we brought Partey and Nketiah on. And, Ødegaard just moved into a 10 role. Partey just moved into the position that Ødegaard was playing, and Nketiah just replaced Lacazette. So we didn't actually change anything about the way that we were playing or the structure. And that's frustrating. And as someone that really wants Arteta to succeed and wants to see him, take this team forwards, it's very difficult to argue that case when those consistent errors are made. What I would say is that the big kind of fall down, and maybe I can get your thoughts on this, Lee, is that I'm not sure if you sack him where you kind of go. And that's the thing. Like if Conte was still around, if there were options out there that we could go get, like Erik ten Hag, for instance, not leaving Ajax to the end of the season. He said that a number of times. Man United wanted him so bad, they had to go and defer to Ralf Rangnick because they couldn't get their first target. Zidane's off to PSG from the looks of things, and Pochettino, who he's replacing, is going to go to United in the summer. And beyond that, I don't know who you get. And people suggest names like Graham Potter, but Graham Potter came in at Brighton and had to transition for a period of time, and he won 1 home game in the whole of 2020 before getting to this stage now and transitioning. So is Graham Potter going to come in and really get us to the top 4 with 18 games left to go? I'm not sure that he is. So I don't mind the discussion going on about Arteta Out, but I think there's got to be a genuine kind of reasoning behind who you're then going to bring in and how on earth are they going to take this team to the top 4.
Brilliant point. And I would say I totally agree with what you're saying here, but the reason, because we feel that there's no one out there, isn't the reason to keep him in a job. But I think there's circumstances at the moment. Some of it brought on from himself, like the lack of transfer activity is unreal. And I will say this: I don't think Arsenal and Mikel Arteta have got any chance of succeeding, and I mean this, any chance of succeeding until they get in a proper centre forward. I really do believe that, And I'm with you on this, And you make a great point when people. People will turn around and go, Mikel out and whatever, well, why are you feeling that? And one of the reasons was yesterday, and I had a couple of people sitting next to me. As soon as the ball come up, Lacazette and Eddie come on, they just turned around and said, that's it, going home. Done. It's done, you know what I mean? And I said, what are you going for? What are you going for? He said, well, because, it's like for like, why isn't he, we need a goal. Why isn't he sticking Eddie up there? And Lacazette, we need a goal. And I think to myself, and I look at that and I go, well, yeah, and now you've brought that up as well. We didn't really go for. I remember Arsene Wenger at times when we was chasing the game, we'd have 4 forwards on at one stage and really go for it. Whether you think that's right or whether it's wrong, I just feel I watched the Tottenham game and Conte made a couple of substitutions that that took the initiative to Tottenham. There weren't nothing there of the substitutions, like for like, a little bit like Wenger did towards the end of his career, like, you know what I mean? And you just think, like, you know what's coming and what substitutions were coming. And do you know what worries me a little bit is when us fans, we do know a little bit about the game, but we're not as obviously technically gifted as them. But we're calling the substitutions. I knew, I said, you know, it was Lacazette going to come on for Eddie, you know what I mean? Like Smith Rowe was going to come on. Now, you could turn around and go, well, there wasn't really many options for him other than that. So I get that. But I don't see no inventiveness from him. And that's my worry.
Yeah, I don't see it. I think there's been little buds of creativity. I mean, obviously, deciding to move Smith Rowe to that left-hand side really kind of got the best out of him as an individual. I think he's improved players like Saka and Ødegaard that we've seen a lot from this season. But actually, in terms of in-game tactical changes, I think his record for like when Arsenal go one down or go behind in a game is really, really poor. I don't think he's got many points on the board from games in which we've turned the score around. And that is a problem that will continue until you really genuinely address it. And the only way to address it is by making more drastic changes. I look at the bench, and I know that our squad's a bit thin at the moment, which, by the way, we come back to the point of where we've let players go. Should it be thin? I mean, we could have brought players in. Should it be thin? Arguably, no. It was thin for yesterday's game. You've got Nuno Tavares on the bench. You've got Alabiosu on the bench, for those who don't know, has already got 7 assists for the under-23s this season playing wing-back, which is a position who we've just talked about. Could have been brought on behind Bukayo Saka, give a bit of creativity, give a bit of unpredictability. He's a young kid, give him an opportunity. I mean, we were losing at Nottingham Forest and we brought Kolasinac on in the 88th minute, and we have Mika Biereth, who's been scoring a fair few goals for the under-23s, on the bench as well. It's just kind of those, he's a bit too safe at times. And I think that's a completely fair criticism of his in-game management. But then we talk about him being too safe. How many red cards have we got now under Mikel Arteta? It's 14. It's ridiculously high. What do you put that down to? Why? Because it's strange, isn't it? Like, for a manager to come in and you see lots of red cards, usually you kind of marry red cards with specific players. And yes, those specific players like Xhaka have got red cards. But Partey was never really known for getting red cards.
No.
I don't remember. Eddie Nketiah, I think, got a red card under Mikel Arteta. Like,
yeah. Harsh,
it's strange. Yeah, but he did get it. Yeah, Aubameyang as well. Did Aubameyang get one?
Yeah, he got Crystal Palace. Yeah. Listen, when it comes to the red cards, let's go back to that Man City game. I know the penalty was a real kick in the old teeth and all that, but I still fancy us to go on and win that game, even at 1-1. And Martinelli should have scored with the open goal. I don't know if he's lost a bit of confidence in front to go after that. I'm not sure, but he was, fantastic again yesterday, by the way.
Yeah, it was.
And then you're thinking, right, we can still win this game. We've taken it to them. And then Gabriel gets himself sent off, and it's backs to the wall. And I'll tell you what, we defended quite well up until the last minute of that game. Then we shoot ourselves in the foot against Liverpool. But I don't care what anybody says. But looking on it, maybe that was a blessing in disguise, because it made us defend properly and get a 0-0 draw. If we could have actually played like we did last night, trying to get something, and end up losing 2-0, but we kept a clean sheet. Fantastic. But that sending off again, and another sending off yesterday, which didn't affect the game as far as I'm concerned, but it affects our next game now. And the Xhaka one affected this game. There is a consequence to these sending offs, whether it's game or the game after, and it's not being addressed, Tom. It's certainly not, And one thing I'll throw at you, if it was Martinelli or it was Saka getting these bookings, or Smith Rowe, I could say, but it's the experienced players, or the more experienced players that are getting these sending offs.
No, and I think Arteta's spoken about this idea that he's been calling on the senior players to step up. But as you say, they're the ones that are causing problems. Xhaka getting a red card, Aubameyang being stripped of the captaincy because of ill discipline and disciplinary breaches left, right and centre. We're getting rid of some of the senior players. Kolasinac has gone. Marie has gone. Like, the average age of the squad is actually going down at the moment, be it through sales or, exile from the team in the case of Aubameyang. So we are leaning towards this youthful side, but it's not those young players that are the ones that are being ill-disciplined. In fact, you look at players like Tomiyasu, 22 years old, arguably the most disciplined player in our team right now. So getting your head around why certain things are happening is near impossible to even come up with an answer at times, because it's so strange seeing those players get sent off. And I honestly don't have an answer as to why it is the senior players. The obvious, like, maybe retort would be like, well, if Arteta was more experienced, maybe he could get more from these players. But I think that's probably a bit of a cop-out answer, to be honest. If you actually look at kind of what's changed over Arteta's tenure, we have improved in certain aspects. But there are crucial areas of this team that are letting the side down. And to be honest, a lot of them are still the players that have been lingered on from the previous regimes. Now, should a manager have to get the best from the players that he's got? Absolutely. But am I expectant of an inexperienced coach like Arteta not to want a full squad of basically his own players in every key position? If you think about the players we've signed, goalkeeper, we've improved with Ramsdale. In defence, I think we can all agree that defence has improved with the players that we've signed, the way we're playing out from the back. Midfield, we still need that key midfielder, and he's still playing Granit Xhaka, and I feel like he feels that he needs to play Granit Xhaka consistently because he's one of those experienced heads, and we lack leadership, and Lokonga on his own can't do it. We'll go and sign an experienced player that's your own if you want to do that. The forward line, Smith Rowe, using him on the left has been really good. Bleeding in Martinelli gradually into the team and then getting him in now has proven to be really receptive, and he's been receptive of that. Getting the best in Bukayo Saka, moving Pepe out of the side. It's just now this striker position, as you talked about earlier, Lee, is that without a striker, we just don't seem like we can really see the full potential of this side. And that's when we go back to this old idea of transfers, is that are we wasting the time that we're taking to get or try to get Dusan Vlahovic, for instance, through the doors, when we could have maybe brought someone in on a short-term deal or someone on a cheaper deal that was going to give an immediate impact, but then you could still go for your marquee striker either later on this window or in the summer.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that in a second, just go up, because there's I think some real key facts into that. Let's just touch on the Liverpool game yesterday. Disappointing. And it was disappointing. I've sat there, I've watched the game, and I watched it again last night because you feel that you need to and everything like that. But and it reinforced what I actually thought, that actually Liverpool were far better than us. They were far. And I look back on it, and the reason I think that they were better than us on the day is because they, as you say, we've got a good point that they banked up on our dangerous players, Martinelli and Saka. But what they didn't do was bank up on Lacazette, and I felt that they were comfortable. They knew that he wasn't going to get in behind them with his pace, and then wasn't going to get what's the word, like, bullied by him or anything like that. So that they felt comfortable in what they were doing, and I felt that from that point of view, I felt that they could dominate from the back, play into midfield. I thought that they were comfortable. Once they scored, they was very, very comfortable.
I think that when you look at what Liverpool did to us, is that they held us. I think I used the analogy of like a bully in the school playground holding a smaller child at arm's length. That's kind of how it felt for most of the game. Like, we're swinging our arms and trying to create stuff, but ultimately we never really threatened Liverpool. And is it as simple as just saying they're a better team than us on the day? Like, no. How much analysis do you have to go into the game talking about, oh, well, we didn't make this substitution, we got this lineup wrong? But how much do you have to sit there and say they were just a lot better than us and are a lot better than us?
Well, I think you have to accept that they are. You know what I mean? But I don't. If you accept that, you're not going to do too well, are you? I think that you can get about certain things. I said before the game kicks off, I said actually last week at Anfield, first goal was important. It was very, very important, that first goal. And we didn't get it. And once we didn't get it, we was in trouble then, like, you know what I mean? And we was in trouble. Like, you know, as soon as that first goal didn't happen, you said it earlier on, we just didn't really have a clue what to do from there on. And that was the case from it, like, you know what I mean? Like, so and you're exactly right what you say there. Looking back, what you said is a great point. What happened after that? There was it was like the air being taken out of a balloon from the players, and on the stand on the terraces as well. I felt it died a little bit because you just couldn't see a way through it. I didn't think Arsenal played well. Their passing was off and everything like that. But ultimately, yes, Liverpool were far better, but should they be far better than us with the players that they had out and all that? No, they shouldn't have been. Like, I'm going to give him a little bit of excuse. You know, let's get into the bones of it. And this is why I'm not going to hammer Mikel on this at this moment in time. Xhaka brilliant, was absolutely brilliant at Anfield, but got injured, has not trained one bit until he played yesterday, like, you know. Smith Rowe the same, Tommy Asu the same. Odegaard's had one training session, you know what I mean, which is a light one because it's the game the day before the game. By the way, was outstanding. So there was circumstances why we wasn't quite at that game. And, you know, whether that would do us better to going into the Burnley game, maybe it will, because we've got some minutes in our legs and everything like that. But ultimately, I just felt that I watched Tottenham and Chelsea and I felt to myself, Chelsea were comfortable, didn't lay a glove on them really. And I felt that with Liverpool yesterday. I know, like, we never really laid a glove on them in the first game, but you can accept that because it's 10 men and everything like that. We're at home, never really got going in the game, like, you know. Now, is that good management and the game management, if you like, from Liverpool, or were Arsenal that bad? And I think it's bordering on 50-50, Tom. I really do.
I lean, my percentage leans more towards the scenarios of the game than us being bad. The reason why is because that was Liverpool's full strength bar Mane and Salah. And I think, yes, we talk about those two are huge players in their team, but you go through those teams man for man. Is that Trent Alexander-Arnold better than Tomiyasu? Well, he is, because considering Tomiyasu wasn't fit, he definitely is on that day. Van Dijk and Matip bring on Konate at half-time. Are they better than Gabriel and White? Like, we've raved about Gabriel and White, but these are two players that have won the Champions League and won the Premier League together as a centre-back pairing. I don't think we can be arrogant enough to say that White and Gabriel are better than Matip and Van Dijk right now. Robertson, was he better than Tierney? I thought Tierney was really poor yesterday. I thought offensively he was fine in the first 15 minutes. But as soon as they scored, he really did struggle to back up Martinelli for much of the game and left Martinelli really isolated on the left-hand side. So you'd have to say Robertson's a better player than Tierney. Then in the midfield, you've got Henderson and you've got Fabinho, who are, again, two of the most consistent Premier League players. Well, we've got Sambi Lokonga at 22, and we've got Odegaard playing in a deep position, which isn't his natural role. You got a sprightly Curtis Jones, who's considered one of their best talents on the field. Like, you put him in place with those, and Smith Rowe. I know Smith Rowe's done really well this season, but on paper, they're very probably similar on their levels of development so far, those two. And then the forward line for us was Saka, Martinelli, and Lacazette. And they had Jota, Gordon, I think, on the other side, who's a bit of a talent, and Firmino. Jota's just a brilliant player, isn't he? He's absolutely fantastic. And Firmino has been doing it and been a creative force for that team all through their Premier League and Champions League winning campaigns. And when all of those players were singing, and they were up against a team that, as you've gone through several players on our side that hadn't barely trained, rushed back into the team, you know, playing in positions out of position like Martin Odegaard was, I do think that when you consider all of those factors, the fact that we were well beaten on the day, I think it does lean more towards the scenario rather than looking at we were bad. Although saying that, you know, when we did concede, I thought we were bad, but I think we were held, as you say, at arm's length, like Chelsea held Spurs at arm's length. And I think that's because they were good enough to do that to us on the day.
I agree. I felt that we needed to score first. We had a chance with Lacazette in the second half, which he should have done better. But other than that, I actually turned around and said, like, you know, it looked like more likely, and I know there's hindsight when you say it, it looked more likely them scoring a second than us getting an equaliser, if I'll be honest. I did feel that. And I just, you know, going back to what you said about Mikel, like, you know, changing up, why not put Martinelli down the middle? Why not put Smith Rowe out on the left, or try something a little bit different? I just feel that, you know, we've got to, sometimes you have to take a little gamble and come out of the box sometimes to get results. And, you know, sometimes you can be lucky and a substitution. I can't remember, you know, like, for instance, Steven Gerrard brings on Coutinho to 2-0 down. you know, 9 times out of 10, it stays 2-0, but they have the little bit of luck and they get the 2-2, like, you know, and it's great managing from Steven Gerrard, like, you know. But I do think that, you know, questions, if things don't go right on here, people are going to start questioning things. And like people are starting putting things in groups that I'm in and all that. Look at Vieira, he's getting a tune out of Crystal Palace in a short space of time. Look what Steven Gerrard's done at Aston Villa. Why can't Mikel do this? Like, you know, and that is the problem for me. Like, Mikel has made a lot of changes, but I don't care what anybody says now, Tom. He's got better players than when Unai Emery was at this football club. Better players, you know. Now you can turn around and say, oh, well, this team's better and that team's better now and everything like that. But ultimately, Manchester United have dropped off a little bit. There's always some teams that go, you know, like better and all that. Man City and Liverpool have kicked on. I think Chelsea have are not as good as what they was last season going into the two. You know, like they started really picking up now when they got rid of him, didn't they? But but I think that they've stepped back a little bit. I'll be honest. You know, so much so that if we win our games in hand, we actually go level with them. Like we was. With them at one stage last season and they just blew us out of the water. So I do feel that, you know, you can blame the players to a certain degree, and we have done in the past. But as you say, we have better players. I will say this, Ben White, outstanding the other night against Liverpool. Anfield. I thought it was dodgy yesterday. Like, you know, looks a bit shaky. And I've seen that with, like, you know, one of my mates, I'm not going to say who is, goes Ben White 1 week, Ben Shite the next. You know what I mean? Like, there is that consistency with him. I really like Ben White, by the way. But I've got a Leeds pal that said, like, you know, he's so much better in a back three. Now, is that something we might go to lean towards next season with, you know, with Saliba coming back, or are we going to go with this four at the back?
I think that Ben White works well in a 3. I think a lot of defenders that work in a 2 also work well in a 3. He's played in a 3, but look, he's worked exceptionally well in a back 2 for most of the season alongside Gabriel. Those two are the reason why, as you say, if we win our games in hand, we're level with Chelsea. Like, those two are a huge part of that fact. So I don't think it's an evidence that we will switch because Saliba's coming back. Saliba can play in a back 4, can play at right back, can play as a sweeper in the middle of a 3. He's done all of those roles for Marseille this season. I think that Saliba will come back and be expected to fight for his place. It was interesting kind of hearing you there talk about kind of where Arsenal are at. Just to get some more context, Lee, if I asked you to try and kind of transport your mind back to how you felt about Arsenal after the Man City game, so imagine that the games against Forest and Liverpool haven't happened. Where was your head at if I'd ever said to you at that point, how do you feel about Arsenal?
Well, I thought we was in trouble, and I'll tell you, I can go back as far, not as far as that, to the game against Everton.
No, just the Man City game on New Year's Day. How did you feel after that performance?
Well, listen, I'm in this position that circumstances have gone against us. Injuries, suspensions, stupidity from a couple of players. But ultimately, I'm not too what's the word I'm looking for? I'm not losing my head about it at the moment. Actually, yesterday, you know what I'm like. Sometimes I can go a bit overboard about defeats and things like that, just a minimally like. But I'm being rational at the moment and going, do you know what? It's not as bad as what everybody's saying. So, because it's just 2 weeks ago or 21 days today, so 3 weeks ago, we was, I think, ripping Manchester City apart. I know we lost the game, but we were, you know, and I thought, wow. Like, you know what I mean? And we've just, for whatever reason, I always said that we had that little thing with cup. We had a few games where it was cup competitions and all that. Like, we didn't really need those because we was on the momentum of the league games. So I feel that I'm not going to be losing it too much, but we've got to get back on track now. And I mean that by winning against Burnley by a hook or by a crook. I don't care how we do it, but we do it. Then we've got a little bit of a breather, and then I expect things to be happening in the transfer window after Sunday. And I mean that. I don't care what anybody. No excuses. The players need to come through the door. If you're without a doubt, for me, it looks like we're clearing the decks.
Yeah.
Because if we're not, and we're not bringing in players, something is not right at this football club. My football club, Arsenal Football Club, mine and your football club, is not being run properly from management. If that's not the case, and that would be a big worry for me, because if you can't manage January as a transfer window and get what you want, you've only got 2 transfer windows in a year. What's the point of having them? Like, do you know what I mean? So I don't want to hear this. Oh, it's very, very difficult. If Vlahovic, whatever his name is, wants to come to this football club or doesn't want to come to this football club, I want to know why. If he doesn't want to come to this football club, why you've wasted 3 weeks trying to get a deal done. I don't care what anybody said. You know what I mean? I know that when there's a phone call comes in, do you want to come and play for us? Yeah, I do. Like, right, we get the deal done. If you go back to the Ben White deal, Ben White said the Edu and Mikel Arteta were saying we're going to do everything to get you to this football club, right? Before the transfer fee was agreed. I cannot believe they've not spoken to him, and they're still trying to get the deal done. If that is the case, Tom, it's shocking. It's shocking,
Well, the situation with Vlahovic, for context, is that they haven't really been able to speak to him. There was a period in the middle of January where it was thought that they'd made kind of a breakthrough and they were able to speak with him. But from what's been going on and what's been coming out in the last 48 hours from Fiorentina's director, Joe Barone, is that not even Fiorentina can get in contact with the agent of Vlahovic. It's a really strange transfer because, I mean, I've never, across covering the stories of different players, like this is such a unique scenario where the agent himself, according to these reports, is asking for a sell-on clause. Like the agent, not Fiorentina would get a sell-on clause. The actual agent is asking for a sell-on. It's unheard of in transfer negotiation. And he is their biggest client, and they are trying to get the absolute maximum amount of money for him. And they are trying to get a situation where they've got a lot of clubs bidding for him to try. And there's also the sidebar of this, which is his contract runs out in 2023. If he remains at Fiorentina till 2023, he will be completely free to move wherever he likes and get a huge kind of sum of money associated with any kind of move. So Arsenal, as far as I'm aware, have pushed to try and get a deal for Vlahovic since way back in October, as reported by several different outlets. And they're in a situation now where they feel that they are offering enough money that it should convince him. But it's different from the Ben White deal because they could just speak straight with Ben White and say, look, we want you, we're doing absolutely we can to get you. And to be fair, Ben White isn't really in the same bracket as what is considered with Vlahovic at this moment in time. Vlahovic is considered behind Erling Haaland and Kylian Mbappe to be the next big young talent coming through. And there are so many other variables. And you also look at the fact when you go, what do these young kids look at when they think of Arsenal now? Because 10 years ago, those kids at 20, 21 years of age, as Vlahovic is, were growing up watching Thierry Henry and growing up watching Patrick Vieira at Arsenal. Arsenal's a different kettle of fish now. And teams like Juventus and teams like Manchester City and teams like Real Madrid and PSG that can offer regular Champions League football and competitiveness in those competitions will be more attractive as options than Arsenal. And that's a sombering fact for a lot of Arsenal fans to take. And we don't like to hear that, but that is the reality of the situation. But do you not think, Lee, that there is a positive to look at by the fact that we're going for a striker like Vlahovic? The fact that we've been linked and we've signed these bit part players in the past. We've brought in Kolasinacs, we brought in Cedrics, we brought in Willians, we brought in Mustafis and Xhakas. And now Arsenal are trying to sign who is considered to be one of the best young strikers in the world and being spoken in the same breadth of the likes of Haaland and Mbappe and expected to kind of reach that level. Does that not fill you with encouragement that Arsenal moving in the right direction?
I'm all beyond it. I'm not worried. I've always said, like, people saying, "Oh, we ain't so." I don't care if it goes to the wire as long as we get him, because I'm telling you this now. This is a game changer. This signing is a game changer. This signing, and I'm going to say this now. I said it earlier on the Invincibles podcast. I don't care about midfield players. Like, I mean, if we get Vlahovic, we will get top four without any other player coming to the club. Right, yeah. That is how important he is, because when you're not playing well, you're up against it. Bang, he scores a goal. Covers up what the inefficiencies of midfield and whatever. Like, you know, I've played with forwards like that. You know what I mean? You know, you're under the game, and all of a sudden he breaks away, tricks past a couple of players, bangs it in the back of the net. You win 1-0 and 2-0. I've walked off in the dressing room and thought, how the hell have we won that game? And someone would turn around and go, because of him.
That guy, yeah.
And that is how it is. That's why they're paid so much money. That's why they're given, you know, the strikers. It's the hardest job in the world. And so for me, I don't care how long it takes, and if I'm not bothered about midfield players. I know we need them, but ultimately, I'd say, right, we get him in this window. It will be a game changer for us, because it will get us in the top four, and then when we're in the top four next season or in the Champions League, we can then get the midfield player. We're bringing another couple of players. I think Arsenal, and I really mean this, if we sign him, we're 1 or 2 players away from challenging Manchester City. Not beating them, but we're going to be up there, because all of a sudden you've got 4 players, Smith Rowe, Martinelli, Odegaard, who I'm going to count as a young player, Saka.
He is a young player.
yeah, and then you bring Advarovic to that, like all 21, 22, with potential in there. For 3 or 4 years, we can have them really giving it a good go. Exciting young players. Now, if I'm a player of that, I'm thinking, God, I'd like to play with all these young guys, because they're my age and all that. Like, you can have a really good bond with everything. Like, you know, you can go to I don't know, a PSG, and you're playing with 33-year-olds or 30-year-olds, and you're 21. Got a different lifestyle, you know what I mean? I don't want to play PlayStation and whatever, like, you know what I mean? Like, they want to go out for meals and things like that. So you have a group of players that will have all the same sort of interests and playing in the same team. So I think it is an attractive offer from that point of view, but Arsenal got to get it done. I really do feel it is a game-changing situation for us. And I think also it's like with Mikel, he's playing the system that he is, with a blunt striker up front. And that's not having a dig at Lacazette. He's
not a 20 to 30 goal a season striker, is he?
He isn't, no. And he's not going to be on the end of crosses and all that. I think we put in 3 crosses yesterday. 2 of them were very, very good. And Lacazette's nowhere near to be seen. You know what I mean? Like, so you've got to have that energy of getting in the hole and playing a 1-2 and that, but then having that power and that to get into the box and play, like, you know what I mean, and getting on the end of things as well. So I feel that we're being hampered by that position, and that is why I'm not saying that Mikel is the answer to our things, because there are times that I'm worried about him, but I think that this next 2 weeks is key, because I really do think this, Tom, and I don't know how you feel about this. If Arsenal don't get top 4, Spurs will get it. And they get it with a team not as good as ours, but everybody will look at it and go, do you know what? What got them over the line was Conte. And then there'd be so much people then looking at, well, hold on a minute, what's wrong with Mikel? This is a massive, massive 2 weeks for me, for Arteta and for Arsenal Football Club. Really is.
No, absolutely. And I've said for a long time, if we were to get top 6, I'd looked at that at the start of the season. Like, look, you've made that next step. But then as you get through the season, you do have to start applying context to things. You have to start applying what's around you and where you're sitting in the league and how much you spend and how the other teams are performing. And Man United have been a huge letdown. I think a lot of people expected Man United to challenge for the title this season with Ronaldo and Sancho and Varane coming in. I think a lot of people expected that to go very differently than it is. I think with Tottenham, I think a lot of people kind of expected, with the way that Harry Kane started the season, that they were going to fall away as well, and the way that they started under Nuno. But Conte has come in. I think what is he? Is he unbeaten at the moment?
8 games unbeaten, yeah.
As is, I'm not sure if Rangnick's unbeaten, but I think he's improved things at Man United, even though it's not as good.
They lost to Wolves, didn't they? Lost to Wolves.
They did, but I think that's the only loss. So things have turned around since both of them have changed their coaches, and we've also seen Steven Gerrard come in and improve Villa. And Everton, will see how they do when they change after Rafa Benitez. The problem for Arsenal is that, we get to the end of the season, so we finish 5th, and it was all down to the manager. But again, I do come back to that point and go, who who are we getting in instead of him right now? And that's what I haven't had anyone give me the answer. But from a realistic standpoint, if someone could come up with a really good argument and say, look, this is who I would bring in, this is why he would leave the club he's at or would sign for us, and this is what they would do to improve us, I'd sit down and listen. But when you see names thrown out like Zidane, who's going PSG, and Ten Hag, who's staying at Ajax until the end of the season, it's not realistic. But I do think, Lee, when you talked there about going back to the Vlahovic thing quickly, you said that you'd be absolutely fuming if we don't sign anyone during this window in that striker position. Do you think there's an element maybe of contradiction when it comes to him being available, Arsenal knowing that if they're going to sign him, they can only really do it in January because other teams are going to come in for him in the summer. If they throw everything to try and get this guy, and they just can't do it in the last moments, even though they feel like there's a chance to get him, I'd be frustrated, but I couldn't knock the club for going after, as I say, one of the best talents in the world.
I agree. But what I'm saying to that, Tom, is quite simple. Then you can forget about top four.
Yeah, I agree.
It's not going to happen. We're not going to get top four because ultimately Tottenham or Manchester United will do, because they've got one, Manchester United have got better players, and two, that Conte's world class. What I would say about this, and you know, and this is I'm totally agree with you on this. When you just said to me, what's your hopes and expectations at the beginning of the season? What would you accept? I'd have said fifth.
Yeah, I would have said Europa League qualification. Yeah,
because Manchester United, I thought, would be a lot better. The fact of the matter is, Manchester United have been nowhere near as up to the standard of what they should be, and that's left the door open. And there's a chance now that we could be that team to go through. So I'll be very, very disappointed that if we don't get, because I can tell you this now, Manchester United will not be in this position next season. They will not be 5th, 6th, 7th in the league with Pochettino in charge, if that's who they're going to go for. They'll have their man in charge, and there'll be a different proposition. This is a team that's going to have a manager for the first time in a couple of years that they really want. They wanted Pochettino 2 years ago, but Solskjaer had such a fantastic run that they had to give it to him. Like, you know what I mean? They won't make that mistake this time around. Like, you know, so don't think Manchester United are going to be making many more mistakes, because they're not. Tottenham are improving with not one Conte player yet. Wait till he gets his players in. There's a problem.
That's a good point.
You know, Steven Gerrard's getting a tune out of Aston Villa, and Aston Villa got a bit of money, by the way, nowadays. Like, you know what I mean, and showing ambition, are going to be pushing. So all of a sudden, and I tell you what, if Duncan Ferguson gets it right at Everton, they're going to be pushing as well. And then don't forget, you've got a team from up north and the northeast that have got abundances of money. If they stay in the Premier League next season, like, that's going to be there. So Arsenal have got to make this happen now, Tom. You know what I mean? Like, and I mean that now. This is the opportunity to go through that Champions League door, and they have to get the player in that's going to get them there. Now, for me, Vlahovic, you might think I'm stupid. Like, that door's locked at the moment. He's the key. He's the one that will open it. And I swear to you now, if we get him, we will go. And he performs like he is now. And it's not going like him coming over and starting performing like Eddie. If he comes in and plays to his performances, right, he will take us to the Champions League places. And that is how key that this is. Like, so I get that we're going all guns for him, because I think that, you know, it's the thing. Mikel has come out today, or was it yesterday? I think it was yesterday, and he's going that I know we need players, and we will get some players. You know what I mean? So he's confident that, but we don't know who it is. Like, you know what I mean? So, and I'm going to say this when it comes to the transfer window, transfers. I'm going to give Edu and that a little bit of leeway on this. If they get him, I will understand us being knocked out of the FA Cup and understand us being knocked out of the League Cup for the bigger picture, Tom. The bigger picture over the next 3 or 4 years. You know, they've had to cut their cloth accordingly to get him in, like, you know what I mean? We'll have to wait and see. It's a massive call for me, like. Before we carry on to the next bit there, Wayne had a super chat a long while ago. Let's be honest, Arteta's man management has nothing to do with Xhaka's stupidity. Xhaka's been getting red cards under Wenger as well, like, you know. So I will say this about Arteta and Xhaka. He's very, very keen, very, very quick to pull the gun on Guendouzi for discipline, very, very quick on Aubameyang, or not quick on Aubameyang, but he's done it. He cannot continue to let Xhaka continue to keep getting sent off, Tom, and continuing letting him back in the team.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, mate. It shocks me that we didn't move on from him in the summer, and we had the opportunity to. The issues with Guendouzi and with Ozil and Mustafi and now Aubameyang seem to be slightly they're to do with more the off-field matters and how these players have responded. And supposedly Xhaka's always responded well, and that's why he's been thrown back in. But you can't just keep saying sorry and it being okay. Like, you can't keep making. I think what was it, the 19 apologies he's made since he signed for Arsenal, and Partey started his record now as well by doing one last night. I don't want apologies. I want accountability. That's what I want to see at Arsenal. Is I want to see changes made. And look, I haven't got a reason for you, Lee, when you ask me why Xhaka still remains, other than we don't have an alternative. But I would say that Lokonga did deserve to be dropped when he was dropped. I thought Lokonga was doing great. I thought in the Newcastle game he was great. The Aston Villa game he was great. Watford game he was great. And yet against Man United, he drops in for El Neni, and then against Everton still wasn't the team, and Xhaka came in and we were awful. I can't get my head around that. Like, why try and change something that wasn't broke at the time? And then Lokonga came back in against Forest completely cold and playing alongside an 18-year-old making his first start for the team. It was a recipe for disaster. So
do you feel like people are saying in the comment, like, we've neglected the midfield situation? Do you think that they've neglected it, or do you think that they have been let down by the Partey's getting sent off and the Xhaka's getting sent off?
Look, they've been let down by Xhaka, but they should have brought someone in. Like, it's both, but it still falls on the club for letting Ainsley Maitland-Niles leave when they did and not bringing anyone in. I mean, it's not like the African Cup of Nations has snuck up on anyone. It's not like COVID or an injury. We've known this tournament's coming for ever since it was announced however many years ago. Like, so to not be discussing transfers and not be not being out there and doing what he needs to do in the midfield. Like, I know he's been doing it for the strikers. He met with Jonathan David's with Jonathan David's agent in December. He's been caught in the Lavezzi situation since October, but we knew the midfield was going to be sparse. So the first mistake is obviously not preparing and not being ready to bring someone in. Everton signed Mikalenko on the first day of the window because they'd been prepping for the window and ready for Lucas Dean to depart. But we couldn't prepare for the AFCON. We had a situation then where we had Roma coming in saying, look, we want to take Maitland-Niles from you. Maitland-Niles is sitting there and saying, I want to go because I'm not playing. What was wrong with Arteta saying, look, we've got a period coming up here where Elneny's going to be gone, Partey's going to be gone. You're going to get minutes during this January window. If you're still not getting minutes by the end of the window, we'll let you go. If Roma are going to turn around and say, sorry, we only want to buy him or only want to take him at the start of the window, you turn around and you say, tough, we've got games coming up and we need to keep hold of it.
Well, exactly. I'm 100% with you. Like, I mean, he would have played in these last 3 games, Tom. And not only that, could have played in a North London derby. Like, you like to go out at the end of that, surely, like, you know what I mean? I'm going to say what Russ has said here, because he said it's an awful squad at the moment, awful middle management, and then of course he slags off Yana because that's what Russ does, like, you know what I mean? But,
oh, we love our Russ.
Is it been awful, mate? Has it been awful from Edu and all that? Would you put this down as a foul from Edu?
Look, this window's a fail so far. Yeah, like, without a shadow of a doubt. If we get Vlahovic, it's the greatest window of all time, Lee. Like, that's what I'm saying. And that's the fine line. That's the fine line between absolute horrid failure and having one of the best windows that we've ever had. That's how fine it is. And they are rolling the dice on this. I mean, Darren Sullivan in the chat box says Edu is useless. Like, those types of comments really frustrate me. Like the reactionary nature. Because in the summer, we did a really good summer with the players that we brought in. It wasn't perfect. We didn't move out all the players that we needed to. I'll tell you what, though, we got a great price for Joe Willock in the end. That's something that we did do. But the 6 signings that we've made are all starting pretty much week in, week out. They're all improving us. But, I mean, Tavares, of course, kept Tierney out the team for a while. You got Erdegaard. I don't
care what anybody says. You know, I mean, we did not miss Tierney when he was injured.
No.
So he's done his job, Tom. He's done his job. People go on me like that. He done his job. It was so much so when Tierney was fit, he was still on the bench. He has done his job. What his job was to do was to cover Tierney when he's injured, and he done it. And I think, people don't appreciate how difficult a job that is, to come in and do that and then get out the side and come back into the side. So, I don't think that's a bad thing. So I think you're right. The signings have been all very, very good. Like, we've played over the odds, by the way, on two of those players in Ben White and Ramsdale, but because we wanted them, we got them. Now, I'm going to ask you the question. Do you think we'll make signings in the summer? And I don't ask you to put your reputation on the line and all that, just your gut feeling, what I mean? Yeah. Do you think that we'll get what we want, or what I want, shall I say?
You want to ask me straight up, do we think we'll get Vlahovic in this window? Look,
50-50?
I'm not that optimistically. I'm not as optimistic as 50-50. And that's not down to Edu. And that's not down to how much the club are not. That's not about the club not willing to spend. It's about Vlahovic, and it's about the agent. And that's the problem. Like, it's not one of those windows where we go, oh look, we didn't invest, or what are these guys doing? Why aren't we signing anyone? They are trying. They are really trying to get Vlahovic in, but. Look, we aren't his preference. We aren't his number one choice. And if we were, he would have gone to us. I'm not saying he's not interested, because I'll be very surprised to see us going as hard for a player as we are, with there being absolutely no interest or no openness at all. But they are trying to get him. And if he had no interest, they would have moved on to another target by now. But they are really trying. I go as low as saying I've got a 20% hope that it happens. Because it's that tricky. I think he'll stay until the end of the summer and then move somewhere else, to be honest. That's where I'm at.
That's where you're feeling like, I think this is Jashar says, evening fellas. The problem is the club didn't prepare for the top four in the summer. The midfield situation was a priority and we didn't address it.
Yeah.
No top four. Now I'm gonna say about this. I think that the top four, the midfield, I think the Granit Xhaka thing messed all that up. Like, I think that they was prepared, like he was going to go, but then there was a change around, and then they've kept him. And I honestly think that sort of made the management think, all right, we don't need that midfield player till next summer now. Like, I think Granit Xhaka will go this summer. That's my opinion. I feel that would be the case on that, So, do you think they'll sign a midfield player, maybe on loan, Tom, or do you think that we ain't going to do nothing in this window?
Yeah, no, I think that's the more likely one. Artemelo from Juventus is, I mean, if you talk about percentages, I'm way over the 50% in terms of likelihood for that one. Juventus, ironically, want to bring in a replacement. I mean, look, Ainsley Maitland-Niles, we think that's the irony. They want to bring in a replacement. They're interested in Dennis Zakaria at Borussia Mönchengladbach. There's other targets they've got. But the difference with this is, Lee, is that the player really does want to come to Arsenal. Artemelo is the one. People like, when you see those reports about him, about an 18-month loan deal, that's not Juve or us. That's Artemelo being the guy to push for the 18 months. He wants to move for 18 months because he wants to get settled. He wants to, prove himself over a longer period of time. Arsenal just want 6. Arsenal want a straight 6-month loan deal for him, and it's about whether or not Juve allow it to happen. But
what sort of midfield player is he, Tom?
So Arta is kind of, for those that want a really good example of what he's capable of, after you finish watching this show, go and watch the highlights of the Juventus 4 Roma 3 game. Juventus were 3-1 down before he came on. Arta came on and completely changed the game structurally with what he did, with his orchestrating from deep. Locatelli moved slightly further forward, and Juve were a completely different side. He is just a technical kind of orchestrator from that deeper position with his passing. He's got a lot, and don't take this the wrong way, but if I was to ask you, name me all the good things about Granit Xhaka, what would you tell me that they were?
I think that long-range passing. I think that I like his toughness. I like that the nasty side of his game within in
the realms of
the realm of how it is. You know what I mean? Like, and I think he does lead on the pitch. I do think that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The only thing I don't rate about Granit Xhaka is if he had pace, I think he'd be a fantastic midfield player. Fantastic.
Yeah.
I think his pace lets him down.
With Arta's basically got that passing, orchestrating ability to be consistent. He unlocks those wider areas. He orchestrates them. He can be disciplined. You know, his pressing's good. Arteta loves a player that can press. He's got energy about him. He won't get like recovery pace-wise. He's not rapid, but, you know, he's more mobile than what Granit Xhaka is. And so what I'm feeling like he's looked at is he's the guy that comes in, replaces Granit Xhaka for that short period of time, allows Thomas Partey to be more expressive, more explosive, more progressive with his play, more transitional with the ball, be freer. Because at the moment, Thomas Partey is basically being able to babysit the number 6 position while Granit Xhaka gets turned too easily, or he's got a very inexperienced Sambi Lokonga next to him. You put Arteta in that role next to Partey, and you've got someone that can take the ball, move it on, keep the play ticking over, whilst Partey goes and does his magic, which we know he can do.
And so when you say like 6 months, do you think that Arsenal will have a look at that 6 months before they make a decision, or is it that they're going to look to get him in now and then maybe go for someone in the summer?
I think that they're looking at this as very much a loan deal with a view of looking at someone else in the summer. But if Artur was to really impress during these 6 months, like the Odegaard situation, though, the difference with Arsenal now under Arteta and Edu is that they want to be more measured. Sorry, they don't want to just, you know, spunk a lot of money on some player that doesn't matter. They don't want to do a Willian again. They don't want to do your David Luiz's again. They don't want to do your Cedrics or your Maries. They want to consider every single player that they're looking at. What's the impact that player is going to have? Do they fit what we're trying to build? Are they going to have sell-on value? Are we going to be able to, you know, we don't want a situation where we're cancelling contracts again. Every single player that we're looking at now is done with a ridiculous amount of research, prior thought, and then trying to get them into the structure of both financially for a wage system and into the team of what we're expecting. So that's why they only want the 6-month loan with Artur, because they're looking at the midfield situation and thinking, we've got to bring someone in. We're not going to be able to bring in our prime target, which probably, by the way, is Yuri Tielemans from the sounds of things. They're going to be looking at probably bringing him in the summer if they can. And then Artur is this stopgap, if you like, which they don't really want to do, but they feel like they kind of have to.
So Tielemans, you think is the one, like, yeah?
Arteta loves him. Arteta really admires Tielemans, and he's a player that they've liked for a long time. Liverpool aren't interested. Liverpool don't want to sign Tielemans, so they don't have the competition from them. A lot of people are worried about him from what they've seen of him in the last kind of couple of months or so, but I think that's because you're watching a Yuri Tielemans that is very much months away. His head's gone. His head's not there. He's not accepting a contract. He doesn't want to sign a new contract at Leicester. He'll have a year left on his deal in the summer, and Leicester will move him on if they get a good deal for him. But they won't. I doubt Arsenal will be able to get him in January, despite some reports saying that, because, you know, they're going all out to try and put the money on Vlahovic. But he's the number one midfield pick, it seems, for summer. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to leave it on that note, Tom. Tielemans and Vlahovic, that'd be like very nice, like, you know what I mean? They leave it on a positive note, like, you know what I mean? So that would be good business, wouldn't it? That would be good business. Even if one of the, you know, we'll get in Vlahovic now and then, like, Tielemans in the summer, that would be very, very good business for our. Yeah. You take that, wouldn't you? Listen, Tom, been an absolute pleasure. Like, that's something different we've done here. So that's me asking a few questions.
It's usually the way around.
quite enjoyed it, like, you know. So really enjoyed that. I don't know how the football's going. Is it finished now? I think that
Norwich were 3-1 up, were they not? Well,
last time they were. I think that let's just go to 102 minutes gone. 3-0 it is.
3-0. Oh, Watford.
They had somebody sent off. Dennis got sent off as well. So Watford 0, Norwich 3. Can I just say, like, you know, that's goodbye Ranieri. He ain't surviving after that. Like, you know what I mean? 3-0 home to Norwich. That's 2 wins on a trot for Norwich now, and that puts them. Do you know what takes them out of the bottom 4? Great job.
Wow, that's unbelievable, isn't it?
Great job he's doing there. Dean Smith doing a good job there, and Watford have gone into the bottom 3 now, alongside Newcastle and the team that we're playing on Sunday, which is Burnley. That gives me the right red. Look at how good I am. I'll put myself right into that now. I mean, come on, that was fantastic. That was, wasn't it? Like, you know.
Perfect stuff. I mean, you're going to get better every week. I think you should just host it. Let Dan answer the questions.
Well,
mate.
how I've brought myself into that. Like, so, what do you think? What do you think on Sunday? What score prediction?
Look, anything less than 3-0, really, you have to question what's going on. They're depleted sides. I mean, they've barely had any players training because of COVID injuries.
They've got 16 players travelling.
So we have no excuse really not to get a really strong result. We should absolutely be comfortably winning this game. So I'm going to go 3-0, Lee.
3-0. I'm going to go 2-0. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for doing the chat. Thanks for the great chatting here, by the way, as usual. And thanks for everybody watching. We're out of here. Thank you very much. And listen, have a great weekend, guys.